some reason I'm reminded of the Three Witches scenes in Macbeth. Double, double, toil and trouble, fire burn and cauldron bubble. I'm making compost tea. So far I have 5 gallons of water with one 1,000 milligram vitamin C tablet crushed up in it, and roughly a couple of tablespoons of good old Crosby's molasses. I'm going to add my tea bag of compost. On the web it suggests using a couple of tablespoons of either seafood emulsion or fish emulsion. I didn't buy either of those to add, but the compost that I'm using is seafood compost. I don't know if that's going to give me the same effect or not. What I'm using to make the tea bag out of, I bought in the fabric department at Walmart. It's called Tulle. Looks to me like the same sort of stuff you'd make a veil out of or something like that. Anyways, nice and porous and should allow water to circulate through it. For $3 I got 2 meters of the stuff. Should make many tea bags. Now we let it set for 24 hours, and tomorrow I'm going to put the miracle substance on my garden and see what happens. Well, it's about 22 or 23 hours later. The tea has been brewing all that time. As you can see, the water certainly got a lot darker. I can't see down to the bottom of the pail anymore. But also something has definitely happened. The bubbles that were coming up yesterday were just breaking on the surface, and now something is developed in the water that's causing bubbles, a lot of bubbles, to stay on the surface. So there's been a change there somewhere. Anyway, I'm just about to shut it down and load up my watering can and spread it around, see what it does for me. Well, I had enough of the compost tea to water everything in the greenhouse and 2 of the 4-foot square beds. So I guess I can see where I'll almost always have to have a brew on the go if I like the way it works, because you're supposed to reapply it every 7 to 10 days. So by the time I finish making one application, I'll have to start all over again. I wanted to do a comparison first thing this morning in this update video on lettuce plants. Now, these are the 2 varieties of heirloom lettuce, and they look fairly nice there. They don't seem to be growing very much. I'll show you what they look like just across the aisle here, growing in a different bed. Now, these are 4 of the same plants, started at the same time in the house under grow lights. The only difference is they were probably in the house an extra 7 to 10 days. They were ones that I had left over, and once I determined that I had space for them, I planted them in this bed. And their 4 plants here are filling this bed right in, and they're, well, easily twice the size of the ones next door. Each bed's filled with the same soil, so I really don't see what the difference is, how come these ones are performing so much better. So that's one of the things that I hope the compost tea is able to do for me. I gave the smaller ones a good dosing of it this morning. This is the lettuce called black-seeded Simpson. It's also doing very well. It came out at the same time as those other 4 larger plants did. Behind it we have beans, which some of the cells have got pretty good germination. There's supposed to be 9. I think I got one cell that all 9 came up and a couple that 8 came up. But I've reseeded the ones that failed, so hopefully it will fill in. And these are the later peas. Again, there were some failures. I've reseeded those, and they're already up. They're small, probably don't show up too well, but the reseeded plants have come up. And these are the peas that were the first ones in, and they've grown, I would say, close to a foot tall now. The amazing thing is that they've all reached over and grabbing a hold of the poultry netting. They say that potatoes have eyes. I think peas must have eyes too. Strange that none of them leaned in the other direction. They all leaned in the direction of the fence that they're supposed to be growing on, and they've wound their tendrils around and are on their way up. I've given this bed of brassicas a dose of the compost tea this morning. They have started to grow, just not as fast as I think they should be growing. They've had an application of organic fertilizer. And from what I've been hearing on the internet videos about the compost tea, is that it enables the plant to use the nutrients that are already in the soil, the enzymes and funguses and whatever that are in the tea, that help the plant to be able to absorb nutrients that are already there. So this has had an application of organic fertilizer plus compost when I put them in. So if this organic tea stuff works, I should see a big difference over the next week. But one of the reasons I haven't seen a great deal of development in the garden this week is the amount of wet weather that we've had. I haven't emptied the rain gauge all week, left it on purpose so that I would know how much rain came down in any given week, and I can add that to these updates. I'll have it to refer back to in future years. But as you can see from the little red float in there, that we had just short of 4 inches of rain this week. 1.5 inches of that came in an 1.5-hour period Sunday evening. We had a torrential downpour, a thunder and lightning storm. At any rate, that's probably why the plants didn't do too well this week. There's not much sunlight available. This Fish River number 3 garlic really amazes me. It's got leaves on it now that are easily 1 meter tall and still growing. I just hope there's nice big bulbs also being grown down below the soil. Just a general shot of the 4 raised beds that are inside the rabbit fencing. Even though I've had bunny rabbits in the garden, they haven't bothered any of these brassica plants, and I'm not quite sure what they are. They were plants that I had left over. They could be cabbage, kale, Brussels sprouts, or broccoli. I won't know until they've grown a little more. But the bunny rabbit so far has left them alone. Next to it, I have the rutabagas. Get a little bit closer shot. I planted 4 spots in each one of the square feet. As you can see, I put several seeds in each spot, and they seem to have all come up, and that's good. I will eventually thin them when they get a little bit bigger, but it's encouraging anyway. I've lost 3 cucumbers in this one cell to the crows, and some of the other ones, as you can see, have had leaves pecked off of them. They're also looking a little yellow. All that rain, I guess, and not much sunshine. I think this is what's attracting the crows. As you can see, that plant marker laying on its side. I don't know how many times I put that back in the soil and I come out and find it laying on its side. The crows think it's a game, I guess. The squash are still doing well. They're not growing as fast as I'd like to see them grow, so perhaps with tomorrow's batch of compost tea I'll add it here. I finally have lost one up in that far corner. It was cut right off, and when I got over to it, there was a slug eating on it, but I think he might have come for the meal after the cutworm did its job, because it was a very neat cut right across the base of the plant. I dug around and didn't find the cutworm, but if all I lose is 1 or 2 in this large bed, it doesn't make any difference, because there's probably too many squash in there anyway. Another way of measuring the rain, we had either 4 inches of rain or a wheelbarrow full. I haven't dumped this out because this is sort of a kind of compost tea. There was a few shovelfuls of compost in the bottom, and it's fermenting there, but I'll just dump it out on the ground. Next to it, the potatoes are really doing well in these containers of compost. The final one here has got its foliage up above the top now, so today sometime I'll fill that up with compost. Tomatoes out here are looking good. The 3 in the back row there are 3 different ones that I bought at a garden center. And the one in the center, nothing has bloomed yet, but it has a bunch of blossom buds on it. It's going to bloom soon. The rest of them are varieties, heirloom varieties that I've started myself, and they're a bit smaller because they were started so late. And the ground cherries and the chili peppers are still doing quite well. They would both like to have some heat and sun, so at least today the sun's out. It's getting a little. Plants in the greenhouse are growing well. I'm just not happy with the color of the tomato plants in particular. They're very pale, so I did add the compost tea to them this morning. Hopefully that will change that over the next week. The greenhouse cucumbers have got their second leaves started, and the red China eggplant are doing well, and I'm really impressed with the way that the ground cherries have grown in here. They're easily 3 times the size of the ones that are out in the garden. Just a few seconds I got left here, a shot of a variegated Weigelia, which is at its peak right now.